Welcome back to another episode of the CyberVault. I am very excited today to be joined by Patrick Smith, co-founder and CEO of Zally. Patrick recently made the move to San Fran to embed himself and Zally into the heart of the AI and startup ecosystem. With its density of talent, investors, and forward-thinking builders, San Fran is a unique place to scale ambitious ideas. And I think Patrick's journey highlights why this environment around you can make or break a startup's trajectory. We're going to unpack loads of things in this episode, and I'm really excited to deep dive into this. But Patrick, I suppose to start with, why don't you give us a quick introduction to who you are and let everybody know a little bit more about you and Zally?
Good morning, Katie, and thank you for having me. I know it's early mornings for you, not for me, but late afternoon for you. So good morning from me and good afternoon to you. So I'm Patrick Smith, founder and CEO of Zally, as you mentioned. We are building or defining something called behavioral AI that gives system the ability to understand context and become adaptive as a result of it. Small team in Manchester, 15 people, and then founded 3 years ago, a week from now. But moved over to San Francisco now 3 weeks ago, which is really exciting.
Absolutely. And I think, well, firstly, congratulations on the pretty much 3-year anniversary. What an incredible milestone to hit. And I kind of want to deep dive here and go straight into the fact that you, obviously, as you just mentioned, you've recently made the relocation and gone to San Francisco, which, as I said, it's really the heart of a lot of startups, especially when they really want to take it seriously to scale. I mean, what drove this decision? Because Manchester, obviously, somewhere that's on my doorstep, close to home, but that is a big move. It's a big step to take. Kind of what were the, I suppose, inspirations for you to go, right, it's ready to take this leap in the journey?
So that is an interesting question. So I can only answer from my perspective overall. What's the difference between the UK and not the US, but San Francisco? Let me make that clear because that is very different to the rest of the US. So I was fortunate enough to be funded by DCIT, so Department for Innovation, Science and Technology, and they brought us over here for a week during RSA, which is the largest cyber conference in the world. We met a lot of people, and I was fortunate enough then to understand more about the landscape over here. And building a foundational model is not easy to do in the UK in terms of funding. We need a lot of compute, a lot of data, and a lot of people as a result of it. The people we can find in the UK, and that's the reason why we kept our team. There's some brilliant talent there in the UK, both in Manchester and London and surrounding areas, which can create our satellites. But the reason for our move is being in center of technology. This is the heart of it. Being able to access funds. So when we are about to do another financing round, there's no other place on earth that you can have access to more conversations for capital in the world, full stop, or period, as they say over here. They understand this field that we are entering with AI better here than anywhere else on the planet, and that saves you a lot of time and effort because when they understand the landscape, the risk appetite is much higher. So that was the main reason. But then again, I think also as a founder, it's not like that I have forever dreamt about being at the Olympics and the World Championship in entrepreneurship in one go, as I call it, but coming over here. Like, I think it took like 48 hours. And then if you have a bold vision and you have a number behind that, you put a 0 or maybe another 0 again after a few more days, it's just all is bigger. To put it into perspective, somebody in the UK, if they ask, can I get a very, very early stage company, they need to hit $1 million ARR for them to sit on this panel, for instance. Over here, there's like, if somebody just set out on their journey and hit 10 million ARR and they will be considered for this panel. Like, it's just like all the numbers are so big.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, my company now is 200 million ARR. I was like, Yeah, that's massive, and that is that, like, and they say these things like they haven't succeeded yet,
Yeah,
and if you get like 200 million ARR in the UK, like you're up there amongst the biggest ones.
yeah,
So I think that is the biggest difference, and then there's the mentality difference that we see over here. So inspiration, access to funding, incredible talent, some of the smartest people that live and breathe on this panel is here, and they come here. But then again, it comes with some negative sides. It's super expensive to live here.
yeah.
Um, and then again, I need to be away from my family for a longer period of time, which is a whole other separate discussion.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes it's the sacrifices you sometimes have to make to be able to go, okay, are we really ready to take this? Because I think you really just define that there. It is competitive, but also I think the game is so different in San Fran because, like you mentioned, you're no longer, you kind of can go from being in the UK and feeling like a pretty big fish, and then you come over to the US and go, oh wow, actually the ocean is huge. Like there's so much potential out here, and I'm actually a small fish here, and but arguably you never want to be the best in the room because then that's when you kind of go, oh okay, well I can stay here. If you want to have that mentality of, hey, let's keep pushing the boundaries of where we can excel, you want people that you can kind of follow in their footsteps or take inspiration from or be chasing. And you know, people really say that San Fran is next level, and I think you really defined that there when you said it's not the move to the US that's different; it's the move to San Francisco specifically. I mean, you know, what would you say is something that you've firsthand seen in the space of 3 weeks that you've been there, where you've gone, wow, this is like a no-brainer decision because these are the opportunities that have fallen on my feet, or just the rooms that I've been able to get into because I'm here and I've made the leap to kind of say I'm ready to take this full throttle.
Um, a couple of things. I wouldn't call it a competition because we are all competing towards the same goal, and that's being like successful in whatever we do. That doesn't need to be crazy valuations or whatever. It's achieving a certain goal. So you have teams that want to solve problems. They're chasing a goal. So we all are on the same journey, and that's when it's fascinating because you start to build a relationship with other founders where we're all on very different but also very similar journeys. We can see the same struggles. I'm sure, like growing the pain points of all people and all of those aspects. And I can see that we all trying to become better operators as founders because there's a lot of founders here that are very technical, that are not great operators, and the other way around. So it's all about how can you become at best at what you do and how can you learn from other people. So I think that sharing aspect where it's one ecosystem. The other thing that I have noticed is that the funders and the founders, so the funders in terms of VC, the guys with the money, they are supporting the founders in a very different way that we do on the other side of the pond. They are creating an ecosystem where they understand that they need each other. So we need money to achieve what we set out to do, and they need us to go and solve problems and actually deliver something they give return on their investment on. Um, it sounds very simple, but they haven't understood that in the UK yet. So it's like everybody's playing their own game.
Yeah.
Here it's one game, and we all are in it together. Of course, when you're in a game, I want to play the best positions. I want to have better terms, or I want to have a better playing room on the field. And there's so many things that can be in a term sheet where the investors comes in. And it's like they want to position themselves in the best way to get the best return on their investment. Fair, but by the end of the day, it's one game that we all are playing, and we need to play it together. And that creates, I'm sure, like a lot of recycling of capital, which a lot of the big players benefit from. But that also grows and maybe blows up some type of valuations in this field as well. But I think that is one ecosystem is also something that I learned, and that we play together. Those are the two things that I got from 3 weeks spending here. We should catch up in 6 months or so and see what's the learning.
Yeah, definitely. A follow up is going to be needed because I think but it's really interesting to hear your perspective there, how it seems to be much more of a collaborative. And I think the best way to maybe describe it is also a community of kind of, you know, entrepreneurs and investors that are kind of all working together in comparison to maybe the experience you've had kind of this side of the pond, as we say. But How do you think maybe the proximity to the right people, the investors, the mentors, the other founders, is potentially allowing you to accelerate in terms of learning and growth? Because obviously, yes, you can get access to those individuals in the UK, but have you noticed there a difference, again, in such a short space of time, of being like in the same room, walking the same streets, rather than maybe having to have a Teams meet or a virtual conversation kind of a way?
So I'm a huge believer in person, because I'm all about building relationship with individuals. So of course, when we set out on this journey, I determined that there should be three things that we need to focus on. It's one, we need to build cool shit, as we call in technology. Secondly, it's fine to make or chase money if that is something that you're passionate about. But most importantly, we need to have fun whilst doing it. As much as I love sitting on a podcast, it would have been virtually. It would have been much better to do this in person and
Yeah,
actually give you a high five,
yeah,
not just a virtual high five or an emoji. So I think the whole like having fun whilst doing it. I need to have the energy in the room and I need to meet other people. So that is just my personal view. But I think overall, seeing that other people are on the same journey with you and feel
yeah.
that is important. Is San Francisco Tech Week next week, which A16Z, so Andreas and Horowitz, one of the biggest funds in the world, are hosting. And the whole city changed, and you can feel it, and everybody's excited, and everybody's like planning. It's like, what are you going to? And we share these things. So being here, where everything is around building. So the interesting thing that I see, like being in a city, is like when you meet somebody, you don't need to ask the question, are you in technology? I was like, it's either you are in AI at the moment or you're not. So it's like, if you're not, they are like, you really want to hear their story as well. Like what are you building? No, we are old school. We're building X, like because they're not utilizing AI, which is always fascinating. But I think like it's all about building together here, and we're putting in everybody founders here. Like a typical founder is like 15 hours a day. I'm currently at 18, 19 hours a day to make it work because I'm so excited by being here. But I think the effort that you put in and the energy you get in return from the ecosystem is just unique by being here.
Yeah, and you closed out on something there that I think is really important to highlight, because it's really easy to underestimate how hard it is to build something, because it doesn't matter how good your product is, it's the team that you build around you, it's the people, the ecosystem that you embed yourself in, it's the awareness you create around your brand. And I think we'll definitely go into some of that in a minute, but I think anybody that's been tuning into this has probably already seen it come across, the fact that you're a true through and through entrepreneur. And I think it'd be really interesting to ask, because if anybody can't tell, they're probably seeing the sun slowly rising, the lights kind of getting a little bit more behind you, because it's very early your way. But you talk about kind of 3:45 a.m. starts. You also, in addition to that, this isn't kind of your first rodeo. You've been an entrepreneur since a young age, kind of creating your own businesses and really driving that. I mean, talk to us a little bit about maybe kind of how that journey has got you to the point of being able to build something like Zally. And I think it's probably allowed you to build the foundations of taking a leap like you have to move to San Francisco, recognizing the true value in that. So it'd just be interesting, I think, to kind of bring to the table a little bit more about maybe the characteristics that you've got there that's allowed you to get to the point where you are today.
No, number one, I don't wake up 3:45 but 55.
Oh, sorry,
I
an
get
extra
another 10
10 minutes in
minutes.
bed.
Yeah, I get another 10 minutes. I do that for a reason, by the way. I wake up 3:55 to make coffee before it's 4 a.m. so I can actually start going at it at 4 a.m. But like any other 10-year-old, I didn't set out just setting up one business. I set up two. One was a full stack development business. The other one was a DJ booking business where I rented myself out to 9-year-old birthday parties and school discos. And my mom drove me around with a mobile DJ equipment. When I was 13, I was picked up professionally. And when I was 16, I set up a DJ booking agency together with a friend, which we scaled to 40 full-time people, 1,000 DJ jobs the first year. And then I exited when I was 18, moved into a event and media business, which we scaled to 25 people. And then the finance crisis hit us really bad. So I had to shut down like 5 businesses overnight. But I think I learned more from that failure than I've done ever since. So I think I was exposed to failure and not giving up really, really early. And having resilience is a very important ingredient to being successful as an entrepreneur. Um, and being exposed to a lot of things. I have never said that I wanted to become one thing in life. I wanted to dip my toes in a lot of different things. So going from a DJ and then starting an event agency, which is it's similar because they're at the same place, but then moving into to concert promotion and brand development, and then moving to the UK 10 years ago, setting up a digital marketing agency, grew that to 50 people, exiting from that after 2.5 years. And then COVID hit the country really bad, and then moved in and set up a one-man band, turning offline businesses into online businesses, and then identifying that people were struggling with passwords. It was not the first time I understood that people have problems with that, but it was sadly first when my mom passed away with cancer and left my dad with dementia, not being able to manage his affairs sufficiently, that I thought there must be a better way to actually authenticate users online than using one-time passcodes, multi-factor, and so on. So I set out on this journey with Sally to see, are we able to confirm our users' identity continuously based on how they interact with their smart devices. So looking into their behavioral data, not just the physical, your face ID or your fingerprint that can easily be replicated. And after 2 years, I thought I had something here and contacted Innovate UK. They said two things: we will give you an IP grant, and they said you should move closer to the cybersecurity community because they're all based in Manchester, which is not true. There's a lot of great companies in Manchester, but that's not all true. But so I moved up without knowing anybody. And that is now 3 years ago. So then we set base in digital, in Dish, which is the digital security hub in Manchester, incubator for GCHQ. And we've been there for 2.5 years now. Sadly, we're moving out end of this year, so that has come to an end. Not because we like, so we have taken over 3 offices, and you're only allowed to have 1 office there. But we've grown too big to continue being there. So we created a great success story, both for us and for them. And they've been fantastic. So that is a Barclays Eagle App site, and they've been extremely supportive since day one. And I think having the ability to connect with other founders in the same landscape that are building in cyber, which we did from, like, we are an AI company, but our authentication solution solve a lot of things for cybersecurity issues. And being there and being part of accelerated programs that we've been exposed to. So Plexel's Cyber Runway together with, and that is backed by DCIT. So I'm an Ignite alumni, which has been an incredible journey, which they take 6 leaders in cyber and help and support them for 6 months with mentors and so on, and training for personal development as a leader has also been incredible on this journey. So I think there's a lot of things, and I've been very fortunate that I've been exposed to a lot of different things, which has brought me here. But I think also understanding really early that I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a founder. I've been put in this place as a CEO. It's now my responsibility, or I put myself in this role, but I had to ask the board, is it okay that I continue? Am I the best person to do that? But also then trying to become the best person in the role that you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're CEO, CMO, COO, CTO, but becoming that leader, because it's not given because you set up a business that you're best at that thing. So I also made it really, really clear is that if it comes to a point in time where I should step back, I will always have a founder tag, which is big enough role for any ego. So I don't need necessarily to be the CEO. But what I've said, until that day, I'm going to become the best CEO that I can become. So I'm only competing against myself, where I'm trying to understand and learn. The last thing I can say is that I've done a thing that I think a lot of founders forget to do, is ask for help. So I always, since day one, at any given event, I says, like, I'm building a unicorn. So I'm building a company that's going to be worth more than a billion US dollars. Why we're not utilizing the opportunity to actually ask for help? So at every event, I ask people for help, and people are actually willing to give up their time. And as a result of that, I have now got the founder of 6.6, David Webb, as my executive chairman, works with me every day. I have some government individuals sitting on my board. I have some incredible angel investors, and it's just that simple question: can you help me? I need help. I'm being honest about it because it's a journey, and if you take people with you on the journey, they're more than willing to help, which I found out.
Yeah, you mentioned that what you said at the end there. I think is something that is so important. There's sometimes pride can really get in the way for a lot of founders, and ultimately asking for help is, in my opinion, the biggest strength. Instead of some people kind of don't always feel that way, but actually it allows you to have the ability. I always say, and I think everybody says it: you don't know what you don't know, or you can only know things to a certain extent of your own experiences. And you've had an incredible opportunity to obviously get some fantastic experiences from a young age, but I still think that also comes from the fact that have seen opportunities and learned how to go, actually there's a gap here, let me capitalize on this in a really great way. But ultimately, I think kind of it's really interesting that you've had that opportunity to get exposure, and I think even from when you were in Manchester, you demonstrate how important it is to embed yourself in the community, in the ecosystem, because, like you say, it's a tough journey, and when you know other people are going through it as well, I suppose that kind of helps you. We talked about it earlier, but that resilience piece is a lot of the time people don't realize that resilience can come from people around you and supporting you through those times. And I want to kind of pivot onto something, because one thing I think is really unique about Zally is the fact that obviously you've got a fantastic product, and I think one thing that your branding is also really unique. And I wanted to touch base on this because I'd love to maybe break into a little bit around the inspiration and kind of the pink, and kind of the fact that you guys are yes, you're a unicorn, but you're not afraid to kind of step out from the crowd and really embrace kind of who you are and kind of the business. I mean, talk to us a little bit about what inspired that, kind of what inspired the flamingos and stuff like that. Where did kind of all of this come from?
A crazy head, or multiple crazy heads, I would say, with a great team that we have. I think crazy people like to surround themselves with crazy people, and we are a crazy bunch of people, which is really exciting. I think there's a couple of things that is good to know about me. Is that if you say it can't be done, that's when I know I'm onto something. When everybody wants to build a company that shows trust, and that's typically blue, in terms of color, I would like to go the opposite way, just to being disruptive. Because if you want to stand out, you need to be different, and you shouldn't be afraid about doing that. So having the confidence. But I think also entering a market with not having understanding about everything has given me the secret, and not saying like, oh no, that can't be done. Because when I set up the agency in London, everybody says like, yeah, there's a thousand agencies that does exactly the same. Haven't you Googled it? It's like, why should I do that? It's like, it doesn't make sense. I don't need to spend time on my competitors. And then a lot of people say, yeah, but you should know what your competitors are doing. Yeah, that's fine. But why don't I create what I feel is the best and what the market needs? And then, of course, once we scale and grow, we can have competitive advantages, and we can talk about that. But if we start with just like, we care about our customers, which seems, by the way, really really simple. We care about our customers, and we're gonna over deliver, over promise, over deliver. And when you start doing that, and people seeing that you actually are true to that, they want to continue working with you, and you can scale relationships. So I think when we started, or when I started Zally, I wanted to be unique. So I picked a very pink color. I picked a memorable name, Zally, and I wanted not to use the unicorns too much, though that was our ambition in the beginning. So I wanted to have flamingos until we became a unicorn, and we just, there was somebody having a birthday or something like that, and I went online, flamingo hats. I don't know how I came about it. And we ordered, I think, like 20 of them. And I'm sure you've seen on social media that the team is running around at events with them on and all of that. But I think not being afraid about this is how it should be done. I'm sure there's a playbook about how you build a cybersecurity company, or how that should be perceived. But you can't disrupt the market with a novel technology that we're building without being disruptive in every shape and form. And you need to allow that as a CEO. So when we have a fantastic social media and community manager, Shannon, amongst the team, when she comes up with ideas, you need to support it and see where it goes, not being afraid about what it can impact. So I think that is one of the things that I have been very, very clear on, is that we need to come up with great ideas and we need to support them, test them out. If it doesn't work, we need to pivot again and again and again and again, and then go back again and see if there's a better time to do it. So I don't know if you know, but we entered the market, or I would say we penetrated the market, which is a horrible way to say it, handing out pink condoms where it said fuck passwords on it, which we handed out in Manchester. And a lot of people take it, like, people took it both ways. But what it created was something to talk about.
Yeah.
And then Patrick is the guy that goes to give out condoms to people. The interesting thing is, like, people haven't been often given a pink condoms by a guy in his 40 or just hit 40 in Manchester. So a lot of people went home, talked to their partners about it, which maybe they weren't that excited about. But secondly, they took a photo and shared it. I wish I was this bold and
Yeah.
brave to do something similar. Not necessarily doing that, but actually being on the edge. And it became a viral thing in Manchester. So I got all these people that I met shouting and raving about us because I handed that out. Not because of the actual condom, but because of us being bold and brave. So
Yeah.
so that was fine. So we had the community like shouting and raving about us before we even started.
No, fantastic. And I think, yeah, I think people often forget that noise is still noise. And, especially when you're getting started. And at the end of the day, you're also then kind of helping divide in the market of, hey, the people that are going to like this are going to like us. And then they're probably going to be great, whether it be partners, customers, or whatever it could be. So it's a great way to kind of put that divider in. I mean, to be honest, Patrick, this has been a phenomenal episode. So much that we've unpacked here. And I think such an exciting time for you and the team. And I can't wait to be doing this again in 6 months' time to see how that journey's looked since you've been over in San Fran. But I suppose to close out the episodes, there's so much to take away from this. But if you could give one piece of advice to founders that are maybe considering the move to San Francisco or something kind of along those lines, I mean, what would that be?
So I'm gonna steal a sentence that my chairman always says, and that's never give up. Um, but I can add to it, and I can say then believe in yourself, and actually just do it. Nobody knows everything, but they can learn along the way whilst they're doing it. And remember, it is a journey, and you need to have fun whilst doing it.
Yeah.
If there are people that are draining you from energy and all of that, get rid of them and focus on the positive things. I would also like to say, like, connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, drop them. If I can help in any shape and form, but also if you feel like you can help me on the journey, reach out. We'd love to work with cool people. So please connect.
Absolutely. And honestly, Patrick, this has been a phenomenal episode and some really great tidbits, like I mentioned. And to our listeners, as always, make sure to subscribe, share this episode with your peers, get connected with us on LinkedIn. And like Patrick mentioned, get connected with him and the team on LinkedIn. Definitely think a company to watch, not just because what you're doing and your product is fantastic, but I think just the journey and the way that you and the team share that journey is really inspiring to be able to follow. So that's it for today. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll kind of see you all next time for conversations that are shaping cyber.
Thank you so much.